It should. Yeah, no, it's back.
Cool.
For some reason, apologies, we lost audio for like a split second because for some reason OBS forgot that it was listening to a loopback device.
I
so
think we set it off with our video podcast chat.
yeah,
It's a no.
I mean, technology wants what technology wants, which is to not do video podcasts. So chances are we may have not introduced what we're talking about.
I can introduce.
You take it.
I'll take it over. So last Ben and Declan On A Roll, we were talking about new players at the table, and if there was any tips or tricks or anything you should do as a DM when someone plays for the very first time. And just coincidentally, myself and Declan were running games for new players that coming weekend. So we thought this would be a great idea. Let's get chat to help us prep the session, and we'll both run the same session. And then talk about it on this episode and the differences, what people liked, what people didn't like, any lessons we might have learned. And as Declan pointed out, but it was off mic, but I'll say it again, if anyone never wanted to play again, which, no, it didn't happen. I never wanted to DM again.
I'm out. I'm done. This is actually my resignation. We've also mentioned this already. Hey, Collective Dave, this is a very different setup for the show normally, in that we're both here together, doing session 0 for a new Fate Earth campaign. So sound off and doing a heck class.
Yeah, nice.
Awesome. We're going. Oh well, thank you. We literally changed 2 minutes ago, and I'm going to be honest. We do look like we are about to either sell you a timeshare, cryptocurrency, or we just need some starting money for a new brewery.
Time brewery. Pyramid shaped.
We're getting there. So we know we need money, but we don't know what we need it for yet.
Well, I'm going to submit this for like best overlay for the next year's Crit Awards. So, I mean, I have my future set. This is just full screen us, little logo in the corner.
The occasional cat just jumping by.
Yeah. So if you need any overlays made, we know some people.
We do, and you should not talk to them.
Don't just go full screen.
This is just go full screen with a logo in the corner. That corner.
Yeah.
That corner.
Mirror
Which you can't see because my hand is the other way. So we asked chat to help. We got our prompts. So we used the same prompts for the whole thing. Or did we? Did you change yours? Did it change because of the players?
No, I kept them. I'm trying to think. I probably mid-game I changed, but I'm trying to remember those prompts now. So on the top of my head, I have the location was a desert.
Mm-hmm.
The monsters that we were given were vultures, scorpions, and sandworms.
Yeah.
The purpose was that the players were being tasked. They'd already done an adventure, so they'd already done a quest, and they'd grabbed themselves. Whoa!
You're the living crap out of me. I think you may have actually seen me go. Thanks so much for the sub.
It was such a lovely time.
And it took 2 years off my life.
And if we can get to 10 subs,
we'll kill him live on stream. So you were saying, we were...
Yeah, so desert sandworms, vultures, scorpions.
Already finished the main part,
and they were bringing the thing back to the desert to sort of repopulate or refurbish
something.
Or do something with it. Yeah. And the sort of twist or the development, that's what we were calling it, was that the players would discover that something was not as it seemed. Or like whatever, we left it open that if they sort of sunk their teeth into an idea, that's what
lean into it,
sort of flip around. So I think I kept to that. There was 1 or 2 things that didn't go that way, but because of player decisions. So that's where like the prep was still the same. Were you?
I stayed religiously to it. Religiously.
I don't believe you.
No, I did genuinely. So it, but I fell into. I'm going to say a pitfall, but it's not, because I remember afterwards I've spoken to all the players and all of them are alive, and none of them said this with a gun to their head. They all want to play again. Mm-hmm. They all want to go at it again. They all had a good time, which that's the benchmark for success. That's it done and dusted.
My players, we had a little bit of a change of plan the day before. So I was heading over to London to visit Eilish, who you might recognise from this very channel, or from Ransing the Dungeon, who plays Clodagh. And it was a couple of Eilish's friends that I was DMing for the first time. And one particular friend was super excited about playing and was sort of the anchor.
Was it Jill?
Jill was there.
Okay.
But not the person. But they got sick on the day and couldn't make it. And it was we're kind of a toss-up. Do we still play? Do we not? So we decided to play anyway. And it was one of those ones where the table of players I had threw themselves into it in a way that the two people I thought would kind of just go along for the fun and sort of try it out for the sake of their friend who really wants to play it and they need numbers. They took to it so well, and I think they do want to play again. As I jokingly said to Eilish as I flew out of that godforsaken country. I love London. But I was like, well, best of luck becoming their DM now, because that is now your role. So I'm hoping Eilish does DM for them at some point in time, because they were a pleasure to DM for. But do we want to talk about how early prep went off the rails? Or did yours stay?
So prep for me, it really didn't go off the rails, because I had those beats and that's all I had. I added a little bit of like, oh well, outside the desert, this is where we're starting. We're starting in kind of like the last kind of remnants of a civilization. Like, it's a little village on the outskirts of the desert. So I added those little bits. Kind of, I didn't start them in the desert, but that was my undoing as the DM. Because again, if we talk on average, a TTRPG session, 3 hours. That I think that's the nice ballpark. And this is what I had said to everybody. I was like, look, we're not locked into that. We can go a little bit long. We had to go longer. We had to go an extra 2 hours. We had a break for like a bite to eat in the middle of it, thankfully. But we spent 2 hours in that tavern.
Wow. Opening. I think that's probably a good lesson. I'm live on stream realizing for the very first time why you meet in a tavern is actually the perfect spot, because you've given new players a contained room with interactive points that they can sort of sandbox and like tutorial their way into the game. Can I do this? Yeah, you can do this. I talk to this person. Like everything you need in a campaign can exist in a tavern for that first 2 hours, because it's that classic trope, isn't it? Where it's there's a bartender, there's this beautiful thing, a man comes in with a mysterious letter, and like Gribbo over in the corner, and you're like, yeah, we talked to Gribbo. Yeah, we're definitely talking to Gribbo. He's like, you don't want to talk. He's like, no, we're that little gremlin in the corner, we're talking to that gremlin. So yeah, I don't think I'd ever appreciated for the 2 hours that's what it's there for. It was really, again, that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, actually they are figuring out the system. They are figuring. And I had a mixed table. I had two people who had played before, and of those two, one person had played a bit more extensively, and then I had two completely newcomers. And of those two newcomers, there was one who I thought would be way more kind of withdrawn, and wasn't. And I'm not going to use the word derailed, because they didn't derail, but got hell stuck into it, right? And took every prompt was, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to, it's brilliant. Like it was someone so, and then the person I thought would be really into it was a bit more adverse to it. I think it was a bit more kind of cautious about doing things. And so being in that sandbox of the tavern was really, really fun. Why it took 2 hours though was because, and I mentioned this to you, they became, so I had, and again we'll talk about kind of maybe where we deviated in that first session. Hey Dino Bags, we deviated here because I wanted to kind of, it was the whole thing of you're on the quest. I wanted there to be some sort of reminder as to what the quest was, rather than, hey look, you're just doing this thing. And it was a thing of, hey, who has it, who's guarding it, what are we all doing, hey Twiggy Bee, what's everybody kind of doing at that point, and who has it, and what did it mean, and how did you get it, and then we actually established that there was multiple people who went to this island to get this world seed and blah blah blah, and they'd been hired by kind of a traveling merchant who was mysterious, and he was your general weirdo who wants weird relics kind of character.
And I happened to mention, because it was a very small tavern, and there was the wonderfully handsome bartender. There was a bunch of annoying kids, because the bar also doubled up as a crash, kind of there as well. And again, it was that kind of, these will be nice little ways for them to figure out kind of skill checks and what works and what you can do with spells. And we have I had a character, kind of your usual hooded character at a table, set there, nursing a pint of mead, very quiet. And they were like, oh, let's go over and talk to him. And then the bartender was like, actually, you should probably talk to him, because, you're talking about going into the desert. He's just come out of the desert. He might be able to give you some advice. And he was like, don't go there, blah, 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 blah. And it turned out that he had been and gone, and he's the only one to survive his mission. He was also transporting one of these seeds to the merchant. And it was a thing of, like, it's dangerous. We were attacked. Nobody made it out. And it's not worth the price. So he was trying to dissuade them. They became convinced he was a changeling or some sort of shapeshifter. They became convinced that he was this, like I said to you, it was like there was the thing that they immediately, the mistrust went through the roof. So it was a smoke bomb and a dash out the tavern to steal the bartender's donkey and cart, and a flee into the desert later, that we were kind of back on the thing. But it was constantly this thing of, but I bet somewhere that changed. I never mentioned changeling, shapeshifter, the thing. Nope. But they honed in on this as that's clearly, this is a setup. And like, we're being kind of, I just wanted to tell you not to go into the desert, because I was trying to warn you that it's dangerous, and you're going to encounter vultures, worms, and But no, they immediately, it was like, we don't trust him. And I was like, okay. Do you listen to my shows? Because not all my NPCs are monsters.
This is my night off, guys.
Yeah, I'm being nice to you tonight.
What I love in that situation is new players will hear what they want to hear. I mean, experienced players will hear what they want to hear. But there's just a really nice, like, spirit of creativity that, like, without having to mention anything, you could see it as where are they getting this from? But if we were to put it like a nice glass half full on, and it's like there was clearly a spirit of, I can throw stuff in, or I can believe in something, which is really nice. In those times, I would, especially after the break, just text one of the players and be like, "You are now the changeling." And then I'd just put my notes away for the rest of the evening. And then I'd say, if you liked that, do any of you guys want to play Blood in the Clock Tower with me?
Please. See, I would do that in a game where I was playing with more experienced players.
Yes.
But if I turn around and tell a brand new player, oh, you're the changeling, you could just see the panic. So wonderful idea. I love throwing in that element of, actually, there is a traitor amongst you, and it's you. You remember now that you're doing it. So 100%. More for me, I think more of that moderate experienced player who's kind of waiting for that twist, waiting for that. Whereas if you spring that on them when there was none in the first place.
Yeah. They're like, I knew it. I knew there was a changeling. I definitely found it. For me, they started on, I rarely do like what I like to consider Final Fantasy VII's world of technology kind of games. So I started them on an airship flying across the desert. Okay. And like I was just like, I've never really done like, Skies of Arcadia kind of stuff. Maybe I'll dip into that. And started them immediately into like combat and action, so they could get used to like what they could do. So it was a sandstorm, like a magical one with vultures kind of swirling around, and they were like attacking the engines, and the ship was going down, which I find is a fun beginning. It's one I've used a lot. The ship is sinking. Figure it out. So I did that, and they managed to kind of test out some combat. I didn't realize, because they all used D&D Beyond to make the characters, and we made them kind of there in the room together. There's now new, or maybe they're not all that new. I just pre-gen, and you can pick the way I bet on horses, which is rarely, but pick by the picture. I'm just like, that one. But they were able to.
I choose my characters by the cover art.
This jock is wearing fun colors. I bet they're fast.
How do you play a wizard?
But they all picked their characters that way.
Okay.
We had a ranger, we had a wizard, and we had oh god, I can't remember what Eilish was playing. But it was, I also said for anyone kind of for first time playing a wizard or a sorcerer or any kind of magic user, I said like there will be spells, you can read the spells, but also, and it's sort of a fun thing I like to do even in like experienced players as well, is like if you have a spell or like a magical technique in mind, you can just describe what happens and I'll mentally assign it to a thing. Because the one thing I dislike having to do as a DM from a pure rules is written point of view is someone goes like, I cast minor illusion and it walks across, its minor illusion doesn't move. What you're trying to actually do is like prestidigitation and you just didn't pick that. And not that that moves either, but you're trying to cause a distraction. That's all, like your base intent is distraction. So let's just mark off let's just mark off a level 1 spell and say that happens, because it's temporary. It's not like I would know enough from a DM point of view to be like, yeah, that's a pretty powerful thing. So I think maybe mark off like a level 3 because it's like area effect and it's like it's around this point you get fireball. So I much prefer DMing Magic that way when players are new to a Magic system, and then slowly as they learn about it and they figure it out, then I kind of go, okay, now it's time to start reading the spells, because there's just something very energy sucking about, did you read that bit? Did you do that thing? Did you
got that?
To have the diamond encrusted bowl filled with gems of this like, and you still need to like, there is a resource cost. I don't think we should get rid of that as DMs, because I think it's valuable to be like, you don't have the materials to do this. Like resurrecting someone is hard. You need to like give me something, but it doesn't have to be specifically like a ruby the size of your head. I'd be like, give me the ruby equivalent and I'll take it from you. So the ship went down, and that's when I thought, okay, sandworms are now my way through this. Except they fixed the ship.
Okay.
They were like, well, wait, what if I do this and this and this and this and this? One of them was an artificer. That's what it was. And I was like, I think that was what it was. And I was like, well, yeah, there's no reason the ship wouldn't take off again. It's like,
surprise vulture, bang.
Yeah. What it was a case of like, all right, I guess you solved without knowing that there was going to be big sandworms, you solved the sandworm puzzle because you've just circumvented it. And then it could get us into, to be honest, probably a good move anyway, because what are they going to do? Another combat through the desert? Like,
how long was your...
So we booked a spot in a place called the Arcanist, which is a pub in London where they have a D&D setup. And you can book a table and you can get drinks and food and all that kind of stuff. And we booked it from 6 to 10, but we probably kicked off at around 7.
Okay.
So we just did 3
after
hours.
card creation.
After card creation. So it was 3 hours, which was handy because as we got to the end of the game, it was just very nice to be like, well, our booking is like and I think it helped the players, especially the new players, go like, I just need to make decisions. I just need to kind of like, we know that we're coming to an end of this. We're wrapping it all together. So the time pressure helped. And it's also why I didn't start them. I started them in action, just to be like, you're on the way, because I knew 3 hours. You gotta skip to the last chapter. But yeah, it got them straight into RP, which is where they came to life. But I don't know if that's this. You were obviously RPing in the tavern first.
Yeah, we started RP and kind of, skills, exploring skills and what works. But my gang also negated combat.
Oh.
And so I had a druid, an incredibly chaotic bard, probably, shout out to Esther, probably one of the most unhinged bard characters. I called Mary, who was a halfling but wearing 3-foot stilettos, or 3-foot platforms.
Right. Yes.
And had a fanny pack. I was like, that's where I'm carrying this. And I had described the world seed as like a watermelon sized thing. And like, it's in that. And I'm like, but she's like, it's one of these magical did not know what a bag of holding was. Yeah. You've just given yourself a bag of holding. It's a fanny pack of holding.
If it's one watermelon sized item.
That's what I was like. Yeah. So I was like, there's nothing else going into that bag. And we had a rogue and a sorcerer as our gang. And so they're into the desert, they're traveling, they have a rough idea of what direction they're going, and they're looking for these kind of canyons. That's the benchmark to, and on the other side of the canyon is the merchant. That's where you're designated to meet them. So they pitch up for the night to rest, because the donkey that they stole is not used to trekking into the desert for this long, and running away from invisible enemies. But we sit down and they kind of, they're chatting, and there's a really nice role play moments between their characters, and kind of, they fleshed out characters that I pre-genned, which is really, really nice. It was a lot of fun to see. And I had this kind of thing where on the last watch, again, prey in the desert was waiting for them to fall asleep or to kind of lower their guard, and I had giant scorpions, so were my kind of thing, but I had it as a kind of a mommy scorpion, and then like one big ass giant scorpion, and then a lot of little babies waiting to attack and eat. And the druid cast animal friendship on my giant mommy scorpion, and it worked. So for 24 hours they had, I'm pretty sure they called her Jacinta, or Jessica. It was a J name, Jacinta or Jessica, the scorpion, and her babies, and it was that thing of like, well, I'm not gonna have the babies just suddenly attack you, because they are little babies. They're gonna do what mom does, and mom seems to like these people, so I guess we like them too. So they used the scorpion to help them get through the desert a little bit easier. And I was like, we've not done any combat. We've done no combat. Okay. What do I throw at them? And then kind of towards the end of the days, they're getting to the canyon. I was like, we're moving along. Vultures attacked. Yeah. And now now you got the problem of they're aerial enemies. So how are we going to deal with that? And they did incredibly well. I think one went down very, very briefly. One of the bears went down very, very briefly.
Nice.
But took to the combat actually they blew through very quickly, and I was kind of surprised. I thought they'd be like, oh, this is fun, or I'm going to do this. They really just wanted to play the story.
I've noticed that. Like, I don't know if it is, I think it's where they've come from prior to sitting down at the table. So if I was to guess, like a base assumption is your readers, your kind of fantasy lovers, they'll be like, I get to roleplay. I get to live in this. I get to, like, the type of people who are like, I love a murder mystery dinner party. I'm going to have a good time. Your Warhammer, Magic the Gathering, sort of like video game strategy people, they'll be like combat and maps. And I think it's both. Neither of us use battle maps. It's all three of mine. So we tend to set up a table that favors roleplay over combat anyway, just out of personal preference. So I think there's a little bit of that, where I never mind, like, especially for first time, for beginner players, the reason we were like, oh, we should probably give them combat is so they could test out what it was like. But if they've read the sheet and figured out a thing and used it and it's worked, that's the same process every time. Look at the sheet, go, oh, maybe this in this instance, I'll try that out.
Because it is, like, because I remember we've been playing easily kind of for 2 hours at this point. Or sorry, it was 3 hours, if not 3.5. So I set it up that they've had this encounter. The animal friendship is wearing off with the scorpion. They're like, okay, we got to get rid of her too, because we can't attack her because she's now our friend, so we're going to send her away. So they went into the canyon. We took a break. That's where we took our kind of, okay, so now we're at the point where we're about to meet the merchant and get ready. So this is kind of where I played with the development. And I don't know what yours. So you guys have avoided the sandworms.
They fixed the ship. They've landed into a small sort of like desert town where they started meeting sort of NPCs and chatting to them and figuring it out. And they're in that space where they're like, they don't know whether they need to tell people about the kind of earthseed that they have. They're looking for I said this town was sort of built around like an excavation site. It's like it's a temple, but instead of going up like through it goes down into the kind of catacombs and into the crypts below. So they did a little bit of like investigating where that might be, how to get there, like how close it is. They knew it was like that was their next marker, but where they plant this thing is they'd have to talk. And that's where I started bringing in sentiment towards this seed. They're like, what was I describing? I described that the land and the shape and the size, it had kind of as if a riverbed had flown through here. So that the village existed in an old riverbed, but it's since thousands of years dried up or whatever. One of the players was an elf who was like hundreds of years old. So that actually brought a really nice, I'll come to that a little bit later, but it brought a nice element of role play for them.
I just want to interject
Yeah.
very quickly. This is a moment where we have 2 snaps.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
If we were playing a game of Snap right now, I'd
Yeah.
have snapped twice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So we have all that in the space, and they're kind of sussing out. Like, I think I put on some silly accent. It was that sort of European, not French, not Spanish, not even
Oh,
Nordic.
Visagian.
Yeah. It was that kind of like, well, you just know you need to go here, you need to get this, and maybe in a kind of slightly Dutch as well. Like, there's everything was in there,
Yeah.
and because everything's in there, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of everything. Getting to know them, they'd developed a friendship with the ship's captain, and like a slight kind of like annoyance turns into, I think I like you, kid, sort of thing going on there.
Did they think the ship's captain was a changeling?
They did not think the ship's captain was
That's
a
where you went
changeling.
wrong.
Yeah, they
should feel
trusted the captain. And the captain was happy to be there, and they were doing their, like, they were giving them passage because it was part of their, like, trade route that they land in these different places, and they were going to set off in, like, a day. So they were like, oh, we'll probably never see each other again, but the ship will be here for the next while. So yeah, that was they'd figured out where the spot was. And I'd say if you're 3 hours in, we're already done. That's the funny thing. We're like 2 spicy margs deep, and we're like, oh, that was a lovely night, let's go home.
Okay.
So I'm conscious that, like, to time this sort of like simultaneous session, you said there was 2 snaps, so we've sort of gone this way, and now we're back into.
So my 2 snaps were your riverbed. So I had to kind of describe the canyon as it doesn't. You would expect a desert canyon to be rocky, jagged, arid, sort of sharp and like unforgiving, and this was incredibly smooth. This had all the trademarks of like a great river would have flown through here and had kind of smoothed it out, and it looked like a deep riverbed. And as they were kind of going through it, and then one of the characters was like, oh, actually, I remember at the start when we were talking about fleshing these out, I had marked that she's from this desert but from a different point of it.
Right.
She was also an elf, so had lived quite a long time, and it was not so much that she'd like, oh, actually I know exactly, but it was that she'd heard stories of a river used to flow through here, and there was a great civilization that lived on it, and then we had given them this idea of there was these 2 cliffs in the canyon called the Twin Fangs, and they're at opposite ends of the cliff or the canyon for each other, and they pieced together that actually wasn't a cliff. It was a bridge that had collapsed.
Oh, wow.
So the 2 parts of it that had survived had looked like these jagged little fangs kind of sticking up out of the desert. And so we had this civilization. We had our very old elf, and we had our great river.
Yes.
And this now is kind of where, like I was saying, my development, my switch kind of comes along. They're moving through this. They decide that they're going to try and find, get close to that archway, the bridge, the collapsed bridge ruin as much as they can, and then in the morning they'll go meet the merchant. And then as they set about to set up camp, they hear someone shout, kind of like halt, and hand over the earth seed, and lo and behold, we meet the remnants of that civilization that are now living in the canyon, like in these caves and whatnot, and trying to eke out an existence in the desert. And they have been dealing with this merchant and what he is, and trying to get the seeds from him because they need it to try and bring the desert back to life. He's using the seeds to keep himself alive a lot longer. And we now have our moral dilemma of, well, this guy's paid us like 90% or 80% of what we have to do, and the rest of it is kind of waiting for us. And we don't know you, and you've killed people, and you've done these things. And we had this really kind of nice moment where they were ready to fight. They were literally ready to go all in on it. And the sorcerer and the druid started kind of... I thought maybe the druid, given what she knew about the place and what the legends she'd heard herself, would have lent into... like help these people and maybe bring them. But she was like, well, your time has passed, and maybe you should leave here. Like, there's nothing tying you to this place but your nostalgia, but your what you call your ancestral. And she's like, you need to leave. Like, the desert has this is the natural cycle of things, and you're only prolonging it. And it was really, really nice. And then the sorcerer was like, actually, but if we could change that, if we could give them some, and really nice kind of moments. And then you had the rogue and the bard in the middle of it kind of going, they still have arrows pointed at us, and let's try and deal with that. So Bard commanded what they believe to be the leader, like to kind of like retreat. That worked, and there was this moment of like the commander of the leader of the tribe tells everyone to kind of like just forget about it. This is not a seed that they're going to get. And everybody kind of is kind of waiting, kind of like that's a weird order to give. And so there's a lot of this back and forth between the remnants of this civilization, these villagers, and the party, who are like, I feel like this isn't a satisfying outcome. Like,
Right.
I don't think we should give this thing to him anymore, but I don't know why it matters. So they now started trying to find meaning in what they were going to do. And it ultimately, my party ended up giving the seed to these people in the hopes that they will use it to replenish their society, replenish this river or oasis, whatever it might be that they can do with it in the desert. They have no idea, because they ended up deciding they were going to go to him, the merchant, in the morning and explain that it's been taken. They're happy to hand over what they have left, and maybe they can do something else for him. So we're now coming to so we've established we've handed over the earth seed to these people, and so we've done our development. But I'm a sucker for a switch, and I'm a sucker for making sure that the party feel like there's been something to pay off. So that morning, and if you don't mind, I'll finish. They're traipsing towards the kind of, they can see the merchant's tents in the distance, and they can see a figure coming towards them, and it's a figure wearing this really manky coat, and he looks haggard, and he looks injured, and he looks worn, and as he approaches, he begins to shift his form, and he turns into this black and white tabaxi with fiery golden eyes, who looks incredibly pissed off, and demands they hand over the earth seed. And I asked them to roll for initiative, and we ended it there. And there was just this moment. I was like, I fucking told you he was the changeling all along. It's like, I have to fucking bring it in, or a shapeshifter. I was like, I have to bring it in something.
There's a Chekhov's changeling sitting.
It
needs to be done for sure. It's surprising, those little moments that are like, from a DM's point of view, and if you DM a lot, it's like, I just kind of threw it in at the end. From a player experience point of view, and especially a new player experience point of view, they're like, how did you do that? It feels like magic, because it's like, I have to remind myself every once in a while that we play this game so often that the thing that was magical or surprising, we're constantly finding new magical and surprising things. But that simple tying of a knot at the end of a session, or at the end of a one shot, I mean, it's the same reason why like the best improv in the world is still just formulas and mechanics and scenes, but they tie them all together, and you're like, how did they do it? It's like, because they practice. They put the time in, they rehearse. So it's really satisfying to see it pay off. And it's just nice when it's something that comes from the players too. I've taken your thing, I'm just going to do something with it, I'm going to hand it back to you, and you're going to be like, how did you do what? How? Like they start to connect threads that were never there. I remember once we did a sketch show at the Edinburgh Fringe, and we wrote it all, and it was all like a long form show. It was, the basic premise was that every, I think, 700 years, or every certain amount of years, the Louvre put the Mona Lisa on a plane just to air it out a little bit. That was so some people were trying to steal the Mona Lisa off. This is our opportunity. It's on this plane. We can swap it out. And like rather drunkenly, and later in that night, someone in the audience came up and was like, how did that all, like, and all the scenes came together, and how did you do that? It's like, well, we wrote it. Like, we wrote it on a piece of paper, and then it happened like a play. Like, we did it. And it kind of felt like, I feel like I'm being glib, but it sort of feels that way sometimes as a DM, where it's like, how did you do all this? It's like, well, you gave me everything I needed. Like,
but it's you know, we often talk about kind of communication in this game and how it's so important, but like, part of that, it's not always talking, it's actually just listening. And that sounds like such as we sit here in suits, like it sounds so corporate, but it is, it's the fundamental thing. Like, what's the thing that they spent easily 90 minutes, if not the full 2 hours, like in that tavern, and that character to them was an incredibly important thing. And it was it was my Gribbo the Goblin. It was kind of a throwaway thing that I mentioned. Oh, it's over there. And he had information. They got it, and now they've added all these other layers to it. Okay, I might use it. I might.
Yeah.
I might have him come back, and now he's actually trying to steal from them. Or actually, nah. They keep talking about this changing thing. It's your man in disguise the whole time, and he's been setting them up.
Yeah.
And like ensuring that he gave them directions. He knew what he was doing. He needs this thing brought over. And like, had we more time and we were playing this, I'd flesh out who he is and why he didn't just take it off them there and then, and all this malarkey. I actually was going to rob them, but they made their escape and everything else. But he afterwards. How did yours wrap?
So the guy at the tavern brings me to, and it's something I forgot to mention, but it's actually a good time to bring it in, knowing that there is going to be development. And we talked about it a little bit when we caught up. The key to like great prophecies is keep them vague, and the key to great tie-ups at the end is leave enough threads that like if you don't touch some of them, it still feels good. So I had forgotten to mention that the Earth Seed was talking to one of the characters. They tried to commune with it, so there was this kind of like raspy, clearly evil voice being like, yes, closer, yes, and like clearly kind of setting up for like there's a tone here that like whoever we're giving this to or whoever we're presenting this, whoever this bringing it, it's not good news. Alongside of that, because we had a ranger and we're in a desert, and the assumption there is like everything's dead, I kept sort of just slightly, you look around and like you've never been in an environment like this before, but it's, you see your party and they're looking and they just see sand and wind, but you see life. Like there's, you notice the scuttling of a little lizard, you see the cacti in the distance like thriving, and as I got to a society, I started kind of saying like, people are making a living here. Like there's like local cuisines that seem to have like cropped up. There's flavors and there's kind of like culture that's happening. It's new, but it's here. And it's clearly growing because this is one of those trading points that the ship land in, and they swap like swap anything they can travel from the mountain regions and the river reds to stuff you can get in the desert lands, like getting like nice cactus juice and I did a lot of food describing, I think, just to be like, you're in an open like market stall, all this kind of stuff. There's commerce, there's life here. And so when they got to the kind of final area, this sort of like set piece, which was just basically just a square, but with like a drop. So like you walked on a very thin platform into an open square, but around the square it's just down into the ground. It's just darkness and nothing, with tiny little holes and tiny little like things around it. And in the front there was a kind of shadow sitting on a chair. Very what's that lich at the front of the DM's guide? Asarak or whatever in Tomb of Annihilation, I think is but very that kind of like.
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah. There's a lich in a chair and he's just been sitting there for years, and the seed turns out to be kind of like yes, I need this to like replenish my life. Similar kind of individual versus so another snap there. And as they were doing this, scorpions came out of the wall. So this is where I brought in the scorpions, and the room and the kind of vault started shaking, and it was if like the place, classic Indiana Jones style, was collapsing in.
Okay.
But through that form of combat, the ranger cops, they were just trying to investigate or figure out if there was like a puzzle going on. And I dropped in that you get the feeling that the undead, because the vultures were undead and kind of summoned to get this like this undead creature and this undead kind of energy, is at opposition to the scorpions. That it's not that these are their pet scorpions. It's like two forces are trying to stop you. One's trying to kill you to take the thing, and the other is trying to one's trying to take this thing, and the other is trying to not let you put this in.
They don't want you to put it there.
And so the kind of reveal was, if you plant this and give life back to this ancient, that's how I made it, I forgot now, the elf in our party was one of the last. They were trying to find their people. And so this person was kind of spinning tales of this used to be our land and this used to be our place, and I'm one of the oldest kind of like living elves, and if we plant this, the elves can come back and then actually it's a nexus in the realms. So it's like, it's not that they're gone, they're just there in a pocket dimension, and they'll come back and they'll live in this flourished land. But to do that, it will, water will fill into this place and it will flood the desert. who will flood the area. And so the party had this choice between, do we fight the scorpions on behalf of the lich guy? Do we fight the lich on behalf of the scorpions? Do we not do any of that kind of stuff? And Jill, who was playing an elf, was like, how old am I? It's like, well, how old do you want to be? It's like 700-800 years or whatever. It's like, yeah, 700 years. It's like, and when you live that long, like, what is life? And I was like, I mean, you've seen people come and go. The people you're partying with, like, you can't remember how many you've just met in your time of trying to find your people who last forever, who live this kind of internal graceful life. And their character was like, yeah, we flood the town. Let's flood this town. Like, why in a sense where, like, we can be a consistency, would I, and like, I know, and like Amelia at the table was like, as a human, I find this atrocious, but as an elf, like, that's like, they live for, what, 70, 80 years? That's so small. Like, it's like the way we treat, and like, was there being like, it's kind of how we treat like animals sometimes, or like, it was just, how do elves exist in a fantasy world? And it's a beautiful question to ask, and especially for a new player to think that deeply about, like, you know, yeah, if there is magic, it's similar to your campaign. It's like, this is the way it is, but if we could change it, and we, therefore it doesn't have to be this way. And I love any TTRPG, because the thing that's sometimes the hardest to do, but it's integral to a rich game, is you're thinking like you, human being who lives on planet Earth, who has all your experiences, and then seeing a beginning player think like someone completely alien to that, and to apply it, there's no like good or evil, there's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong. It's just like, of course there is from our moral compass and more moral standing here in real life, but in this game where there is a safety net around these things, yeah, why not? And then our ranger had already hightailed it back to, they were like, well, if the water's coming, I'm running out, I'm ditching. Like, they left the combat. It was kind of getting a bit sleepy, and they were like, can I just run away? I'm like, totally. So they were like hightailing it towards the ship to like just be like, if I can just get the town on the ship, and like, we'll just like, maybe that's how I'll help. I'll evacuate, and then the water can come in, and we can just sit them back down again. Like,
but this is we had a prompt, but we didn't put it in.
Oh, yeah.
Like a kind of a question. And the question we wanted to ask was like, when do you stop feeling like a new player? And I think Jill in this instance isn't a new player.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the biggest mindsets. And this is also where I think I did my players wrong, because I had pre-established characters that they got to pick and choose from. You use these pre-gens, but you actually spent time fleshing them out, whereas we had a list of pre-gen characters. I went through the character sheets. We did a little bit of character development, but this was more, I saw this more as a teaching session than an actual TTRPG session. And I remember afterwards, because I was talking to the players afterwards as a character interpreter, and everybody was really, really nice. And not in a typical DM imposter syndrome mode. It was one of those things, actually, do you know what? If I was doing this again with new players, I think I would take one of those 5 hours and give it over to, let's sit down and because I'm not saying we didn't develop the characters, we did, but I feel like where players were asking those questions of, you know, how old am I and what does this really mean to me? Those are the questions that sometimes the most experienced players in games forget to actually ask themselves, because we come at it with the intent to play a character or run a story, whatever that might be, but we're not meant to follow through with our own sensibilities, our own principles, our own, like, that bad guy is going to do that thing, and I might be sitting there going, that's fucking terrible, that is an awful thing, and I struggle with that sometimes, because I think, yeah, but do my friends and my players see me as a monster, or do they get that I'm just playing that character? And for you to, like, there's a party that's really jealous that you, your party were asking those kind of big. No, we had our moments and we had which were lovely, but I really feel I should have done more to have them draw out the characters themselves.
Right.
That's what I think really would have cemented. Now they all want to play again, which, like I said at the start, that's the most important. Yeah. They had fun time. They had fun, and they want to play again. It wasn't oh god, no, this was terrible. I don't like this. They all sit through it. We played it. had a lot of fun.
And bearing in mind, like the
I keep saying that like I'm threatening. By the way, I realized I said it about 6 times in a row. There, we had fun. Everybody had
fun.
Scheduled, organized, fun.
But I think the like I played with these people for 3-4 hours. We did a kind of session 0, and throughout the session, as things come up, I would do a sort of like, oh, that's an interesting thing. Actually, there's a thing in D&D called advantage, and so I'd only ever explain the rules as and when they came up, or provide options as and when it came up. So those kind of things, like, you know, if you speak a language,
the shitty teacher in me came out first straight away.
That's the like, it's the. I found it helpful to slowly build, and we did a little bit of like Powered by the Apocalypse, like who thinks they know each other, or like where are you from, and like,
we did a little bit of that's where we. Yeah. But again, I think I went too hard on the.
A question I ask a lot, and I find really useful, is like, what's your favorite like genre or book or movie or something, and especially because I didn't really, when we chat prepped for us, it just gave me a little hint of like flavor, and there was things like, you know, like, oh, I like the Akatar books. I'm like, okay, right, so we can bring a little bit of like fae fantasy, like a little spice into this. That's good to know. Like, and we can bring a bit of like Regency into this if we wanted to. And then there was a few others, I can't remember them now, but they were just like, they were all light enough, and I was just like, oh, I like shows, I like reality shows. Like, right, we'll probably get a bit goofy. That's what, you know. And so to have it all kind of there. The thing I was going to say though is that like we played for 3 hours, so it's like it's great that those questions are asked, but and they'll probably play again. I won't DM for them again. I don't live in the same city, but like I'm hoping they play again. But I don't have a definitive answer on whether they want to play again or whether they just had a fun time in an interesting place. But to hold attention and also get buy-in for a next session after 4 to 5 hours is huge. Like that's such a big. That's where I find a lot of people are like, yeah, this was fun, but like board games take 40 minutes, like the ones I like playing, like, or like little 10-minute things, or like I just 4 hours, 5 hours, I could watch like all the, like, I could binge an entire show, or we could do so many
2 movies or whatever.
Exactly. And the things that they place value in time on, you could get it done. You know, it's a long commitment, so you have to be pretty into it to want to, after a long session, to be like, when can I do this again? And I think it's where you get like that kind of split of what I think 2 things happen to people who play for the first time. 3. Someone goes, not for me, and they're straight away out. The complete opposite of that is, I will never stop playing this. When can I play it again? Let's run it again. Like, and not understanding that there's a person who needs to prep. Like, and then the third is kind of like, yeah, and if it's happening, I might. But like, if it's at a party, I'm 50-50 whether I'll jump that table and like start playing, or like, or maybe I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Not totally against it. We'll bump up numbers where needed, but doesn't actually care all that much. And they're kind of the rarest, that little middle group. I rarely meet people who are like,
yeah, it is that it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Or actually, I know this is class, I want to do it again.
Yeah.
There is a subsection of that which is, this was class, I want to be the GM next.
Yes.
Which is again, is quite a small pool, but it's there. I'm part of that pool. This is a lot of fun. I want to control it.
What are you doing at the top there? How do I get that
how
job?
How do I get that job?
Yeah, it's like, oh, it turns out no one wants it. You just say it, and the shackles come off my wrists, and
you're free.
But yeah, it sounded like we had a very similar, like enough similarity for new players. Bit of exploration, bit of RP, bit of combat.
Yeah.
Different because all groups will tell a different story, but a similar. What was nice about the prompts we got given from chat was, not that there wasn't ultimate interpretation, but I think the 2 of us decided, like, let's not like take that, flip it, turn it around, do something else. It's like, so like we knew it was going to be like a small.
But that's, I think, the thing with we've talked about planning sessions. We talked about, as a GM, preparing for sessions, and Ben and I both are kind of that philosophy of, you just need a handful of beats. You don't need 6 pages. You don't need 6 A4. You need kind of a this, a that, and then this. That's enough. And they shouldn't be well, this is exactly what happens, and then that exactly happens. It's they are going to a desert, they are returning from a quest with the treasure in tow, and someone else is looking for it. That's all we need. And then you sit down with your players, you start playing. And again, I think it's like that thing, with the if you're sitting there going, I can't do that with 3, then don't add stuff to it. You know,
Mhm.
put little sticky notes around it. Use use other little prompts to kind of feed it into it. Like I didn't plan the name of the village. I didn't plan the tavern stuff. I threw that in. It's that thing now where, when you start cooking for the first time, you're like, oh, I have to follow the recipe exactly. 100%, it'll guide you through it. And then the more you do it, the more you practice it, you're more like, I can actually do this by eye. Oh, look, one of your players is in chat. Did I miss Ben saying how much he hated running? He said that there was this one player in particular who kept going on and on and on about she's on like an award-winning podcast show, and just would not let up. Hogged the limelight.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Jill.
Yeah, it was Jill.
It was Jill.
Kept whispering to me, "You're not Declan.
Why are you not Declan?
Why are you not Declan? Do a Declan impression."
I'm an evil hag.
Yeah, I'll catch it.
I'm really accurate. We were actually talking about Jill. We were talking about you as well, Ash, but we were talking about Jill.
The recipe analogy is a really good one, because I think our plan for the next On A Roll, or like in the next couple of ones, is to talk about first time DMing. And I think it's all well and us to sit here. Like, if you look at my very first prep, it is, if they don't meet this person, they do not get this thing. Like, it's pages of notes. We've shown it on the show. It's a lot of notes, and it takes time to get there. And just writing a couple of beats isn't so you save time. It's also it's a great time saver, but you can spend that other time going. What catches me out is like, I'll be like beats, and like a player will ask like a clever question. I'll be like, I didn't see the flaw there. Like, for example, it's like, well, if that guy was the changeling all along and he wanted this thing, could he not have just gotten it from the tavern? And you're like, no, go away. So spend time, but you don't have to be at a computer to do it. You don't have to be at your notes. Just think of your players and the nasty, dirty little shit they get up to, and like how they want to ruin your game. How would they break this?
I was going to say, I do that while you're in the shower, but the way you described it, I was like, probably don't want to do that.
Think of your players and the nasty, dirty little things they'll do while you're in the shower.
But what I mean before Ben ruined it was the. I often find it is in those moments where I'm not doing anything else. I don't want to say I'm out for a walk and my head's clear. If I'm out walking, I'm blasting music. I'm not listening to the sounds of nature. I'm listening to Linkin Park. That's a lie. I'm listening to Taylor Swift. I said Linkin Park because I thought it made me sound cooler.
You could have picked a cooler band, I think.
What?
I mean, if you had all the choice of all the bands.
Okay, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Oh, the Carpenters. The Mamas and the Papas. See, I know good music too. But I do that's what I often spend the time doing in that quieter moment is I know my beats. Like, we are recording tomorrow. I know what my beats for my sessions are tomorrow. But what I'm now kind of thinking of, like, start to kind of, I map out the space in my own mind. And I have it kind of worked out that, these are sort of like in that sort of choose your own adventure thing. Like, if they did this, what would that actually mean? I mean, they might not do that, but if they did, though, what would that look like? And sometimes you get thrown with that, like, oh, they didn't do any of the things that I thought that they would do, and here's this other thing that I know. And sometimes that can be real. This is actually a lot of fun. Do you know what I spend most of my time now doing for Romancing the Dungeon? And I haven't done it for tomorrow, so it's in my brain. Showering. I spend most of my time trying to come up with the Roz prompts.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm doing this for 5 fucking years. I'm running out of Roz prompts. So I've sit down and write those. I haven't got any because we do them live at the show every time we record them. So
yeah, they're not dropped in afterwards. We get to see them as they happen. It's amazing. I remember the first time hearing Roz and being like, "Whoa, it's real."
Well, I lifted that as well. To be fair, I lifted that the first time. She's like, "Oh my god, it's Roz!" as we were recording. It's like, I've been in the room the entire fucking time.
No. Declan's been here, but Roz is a celebrity.
She's it. We like her. Get out of here, Declan. It's just Roz.
Yeah, it's that little pre-prepared bit that's like, it's same with me with like stupid little lyrics at the start of Homebrew. It takes me so long. One thing, and maybe I'll save it for the DM thing. I was just going to say, like, you don't often have to like second guess your players. Just do an exercise of if this then that. So like, if this is true in the world, then that is true, and then like know the world enough so that no matter what they decide, you kind of know how the world's going to react. It's like, well, if it's this kind of world, this is how they react to that kind of thing. Which is a really tough place to be in, but it does require a lot of fun DMing, which is just living in the cool space that exists in your imagination. It's like, it involves a lot of going out to the sandpit in your garden and just being like, this is where the country does. There's a lovely sketch on Dropout, Jess McKenna's in it, where it's like one kid who takes playtime too seriously. Like, oh, no, stop there. That's the kingdom of Westphalia. They've got a queen. And it's like, okay, and I just, no. It's like, that's where you need to be as a DM. But we'll get back to that next time.
Yeah.
Coming up on late night Friday night.
Actual late night Friday night.
Actual late night Friday night. So I don't know if we're going to raid, if there is anyone to raid.
I'll check.
I will be...
you vamp it, so...
yeah. I'll be away...
Don't look at any of my tabs.
Whoa! Tabular. I'm actually in a place, if you're not Irish, called the Gaeltacht. I'm going to Inishmaan in 2 weeks to speak Irish for a week with the people of Inishmaan. So I won't be here for the next Ben and Declan On A Roll. Whether there is... Declan On A Roll?
There's a Declan On A Roll.
So there'll be a Declan On A Roll, but we'll post on our socials. So if you follow D8 Dungeon and Homebrew Quest, you'll see all that information. Socials are pretty good to get it. Also the Discord. Pop on over to Discord and you will find us hanging out all the time in the D8 Discord. So if you have any questions, if you're about to DM as a first-time DM or for first-time players and we didn't kind of cover something, just shoot us a message. There's also like loads of lovely people in there who will provide things 10 times as valuable that we will. We just happen to have suit jackets and mics. So that's what gives us authority.
All we need.
That's all we need to sit on the internet.
I'm trying to find a...
It's strange because Friday night would be... I wouldn't even know schedule-wise, and I know that I don't think EC are running at the moment because EC Dave was in chat. So potentially there isn't anyone. Potentially it's just a goodbye from me. It's a goodbye from Cambridge College, and it's
you know what? No, I was like, we distribute someone who's also streaming D&D. I was like, we don't know these channels, and I don't want to hop into someone in case we don't.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
In which case, it's a goodbye from Declan.
It is a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from Cambridge College. Goodbye. And it's a goodbye from me.
Wow.
Why you don't like my university challenge accent?
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.